For a lot of people, this and next week is probably going to certainly be one of the most memorable weeks of their life. I know it was certainly mine. And that was, of course, my very first week at Freshers down in Leicester at good old DMU. And I got into Bede Hall. That was my first university digs. That was the halls that I think De Montfort University themselves were sort of responsible for and one they looked after. And I think there was five or six others that they had at that time. And I remember going into next year, into my second year, and I remember a lot because DMU, I think, had overprescribed places, I believe, at that time. And I remember a lot of, first years I was talking to weren't staying in university halls. They were staying at the local Holiday Inn until the university could find them places in the city to stay at. That's how much they'd overprescribed. However, it seems this year, certain universities, as we'll be getting into, are having a massive crisis because, hey, we've already got this incredibly long list of crises already. So why not add to these problems and crises that we already have? Of course, what are we talking about? Looks like we've got a student accommodation crisis of all things to worry about as well. And this seems to be a mixture of a very, very perfect storm. But before we go into talking about that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button down below. And of course, there is the YouTube Pony Club as well. You can join that and you get badges, emojis, and all sorts of stuff as well. So, a university accommodation crisis. Now, this seems to be, from what I can see and what I certainly have been hearing from all up and down the country, it seems to be affecting mainly the major cities, especially from what we can see, Manchester and Edinburgh and Glasgow also seem to be really badly hit as well. But for those people who live in that area already, they can already tell you that in terms of accommodation, things are already not even only getting more expensive, but the properties themselves, landlords are switching from being a traditional sort of student lettings to now Airbnb. Indeed, there was one story I saw of a student who had been renting their flat for, I think, 2 years, and all of a sudden, along comes their landlord and increases their rent by £100 a month. They couldn't afford to pay it, so they had to go and find somewhere else. A couple of weeks later, they were walking down the street, and what do they see? Walking by their old uni digs, and next to the door there was a key box. The classic giveaway that property is now an Airbnb property. And lots of landlords are switching from student accommodation to these holiday lets, especially in sort of places like Edinburgh and even Glasgow. And some of the stories I've been seeing, you've had Manchester University that's been trying to offer, I think, a £2,500 bounty for any local students, people who live in Manchester, for them to leave their student digs accommodation to go back and live at home for that year. They've been offering this bounty. And not only that, but you've had them go, well, if you can't live in Manchester, can you maybe live in Liverpool? Which, let's face it, that's a long way. And one of the other funny things is they've been telling a lot of Manchester uni students, oh yeah, go live in Huddersfield. What? Yes, go to uni in Manchester, but have your uni student digs in Huddersfield. Now, yes, there is a direct connection between Manchester and Huddersfield, but even then, offering them £100 a month sort of misses the mark, where these students don't want to have to worry about commuting all this distance and getting back to and from their classes, or enjoying part of their student life, because part of the student life and experience is getting to meet all these new people. And I'm sure there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who met their partners, or whatever, or friends for life, like I certainly did. um two of my best friends I've ever met came from my sort of uni days. So it is a big part of their social fabric for the rest of their lives, and that's sort of, even I sort of find it a bit upsetting that some of these students are going to sort of miss out on that. And it is a bit of a demographic crisis, because there are a massive glut of 18-year-olds this year, because we've had really, really incredible sort of A-level results. Don't get me wrong, fantastic. It shows that we have some great students coming through. But also, last year, a lot of students deferred their position, mostly because of the pandemic, because they didn't want to sort of go to uni during the pandemic. So they've deferred to this year as well. So we seem to have had a massive just wave of students coming in. But this has sort of created that perfect storm of where you had some of the sort of the most popular cities for people to go to university, and this landlords coming in to sort of move away from student accommodation to a lot more lucrative Airbnbs, which again causes huge problems in the rental market, because not even they're not even student accommodation anymore, they're just Airbnbs, which means that for most of the time they could be, well, empty. So there are massive problems in this area and sector, and it's something that definitely needs to be sorted out. And I don't know really how you go about really sort of addressing the situation. um but as always, there you go. So yet another crisis to add to the pile. Who knew we would have a student accommodation crisis among all these other crises that we've got going on? And true, it might not be as important as the cost of living crisis, but this is once again something that the government should at least be aware of, and maybe planning so that it doesn't sort of cause a bit more of a disruption. Because I don't know about you, if you were going to Manchester University and then you're all of a sudden having to commute from Huddersfield to Manchester every day, why not just go to Huddersfield Uni? you know? But even then, I wonder, and I haven't heard this, so I don't know how, if this is a thing, because Huddersfield has its own university. Is the fact that Manchester is now sending a load of Manchester uni students to live in Huddersfield, is this going to cause an accommodation crisis in in Huddersfield? Might Huddersfield uni students get forced out of Huddersfield to go and live in other nearby towns and cities, while they have to commute to Huddersfield? I don't know if that's happening or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. But yeah, like I say, if you're a student, you're a bit affected by this, do let me know. I'm sort of very interested to see sort of how this is sort of affecting people, and sort of what this effect could have on people. I'd be very interested to know. Like I say, let me know down in the comments. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Like I say, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and our off-day link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.